Hi, I'm Allison. I'm just your normal, average, middle-class soccer mom. If you saw me walking down the street, you would think everything is fine with me. But it's not. Not anymore.
Traumatic brain injury is known as the invisible disability, which means you will not see someone typically with a bandage on their head. That does not mean that they have not sustained an injury to their brain caused by a hit, a fall, being thrown down the stairs, or being shaken vigorously. It's invisible, you can't see it. They don't wear bandages on their head. Instead, we have to look for the symptoms that occur afterwards that were not there prior to.
When I had my first concussion, I didn't even know that I'd had one. I had the nerve to walk away from my ex-husband before he was finished talking with me. And he came up from behind me and pushed me, and my head snapped backwards. The next day is when the headaches started. If I had known then what I know now, I might have handled them, thought about them differently.
So many times we hear the terms, oh, she just had her bell rung. Oh, he saw stars. Well, if you see stars, that's an immediate indicator that your occipital lobe, which is the lobe in the back of your brain that processes vision, has been jolted or has been hit, and it's activated. That's why you see stars. So these are all indicators of a hit to the brain. We have to stop and think. Our brain is about 3 pounds as an adult of very soft gelatinous matter. And so if my fist is a brain and it's only connected to the brain stem at the base of the skull, the brain sits inside of a very bony, ridged skull. And it's surrounded by a little bit of cerebral spinal fluid, and it bounces inside the skull. So we have the sharp ridged skull and this brain that's only attached at the base that moves around. So if you're jolted hard, and it doesn't take, it takes some force. You know, you can shake your head back and forth, you're not going to sustain a brain injury. But with enough force, if someone's angry enough, or if you're in a car accident with a seatbelt on, you could have, from the force of a hit, your brain jolts like this. And it's not only the front of your brain or the side of your brain that's injured upon impact from scraping along the inside of the skull, but also the opposite side. And depending on what area of the brain has been injured, those that understand how to work with, in the medical profession, people who've had brain injuries, know what the long-term impacts could be from that area of the brain being injured.
My ex-husband was not a stupid man. He found ways to hurt me without making it obvious to people that knew me. He would push me, hit me in places that no one would see. And aside from the one time that he pushed me and sent me flying down the stairs, I dislocated my shoulder. He never left a mark on me. When we went to the emergency room, he never left my side. He played the role of the perfect husband. No one even thought for a minute that my injuries were anything other than an innocent fall down the stairs, and no one even asked me how it happened. And to be honest, I was in such a fog and in such pain that I just wanted to get my shoulder fixed and to go home.
What happens so many times is that individuals will present at the emergency department saying, I had, a slip and fall, I was punched in the head, whatever it may be, and the education is not there yet for the medical professionals around brain injury. So we're really working hard to try to get that out to medical professionals, but so many times they will say to a person, you don't have a concussion. And then this adult goes home and thinks, I don't have a concussion. The doctor said I didn't have a concussion. But then months go by, and now why are they falling? You know, why whenever they go upstairs or whenever they look up, do they almost feel like they're gonna fall? People may interpret that as them being drunk. It's very common. There have been people that get pulled over by the police, and the police may think that they have been drinking, but in fact, they've had a prior or several prior traumatic brain injuries. So getting the word out that you need to screen for traumatic brain injuries when someone is having symptoms is so key, because preventing any psychological issues that can occur after feeling not like yourself. And so many times I hear people say, but the doctor said I was fine. The doctor said I didn't have a concussion. You cannot diagnose a concussion. You can't be cleared of a concussion in an emergency room.
I'm not sure when the headaches stopped going away. Maybe the 5th time, the 10th time, I don't know. But it's hard to explain. Just little things started affecting me. I started losing concentration, losing focus easily. I would be sitting with a friend that I'd known my whole life, and mid-conversation I would look at her and think, who is that? I would forget people's names and faces. And it was starting to affect me. It was very frustrating.
There comes a point in time when your brain has sustained a certain number of concussions that you no longer can sustain anymore without having lifelong impacts. No one knows what their individual number is. Mine could be 3 concussions before I have lifelong impacts. Yours could be 10 concussions, and then you will sustain lifelong impacts. But everybody has a certain number, a threshold, that once they hit, they can't go back. And this can cause lifelong permanent damage to the brain.
It was like there was no connection between what my eyes were seeing and what my brain was able to process, I guess. And it put me in a state of depression, and it was awful. I couldn't figure out what the problem was. It was like having a cold or the flu, and you want to feel better, but you just can't feel better, and it was very, very frustrating. And I couldn't make the headaches go away, and I couldn't get rid of all these things that were affecting my life. And I wanted it to all just go away.
The biggest reason why it's important to properly identify and manage a person who has sustained injury to their brain is that over time, they could spiral into depression, into anxiety, because of the symptoms they're experiencing that have no one identified it, no one has diagnosed it. So therefore they think, well, I must be going crazy, or why could I remember things 2 years ago, but now I can't? And then they automatically feel like they have dementia or Alzheimer's, when in all reality, that is not the case. Instead, it is just symptoms from their brain injury.
You would probably think that it would be easy to make the connection between the symptoms that I was having and the abuse that I was also having. And sure, now, yes, now it does make sense. But back then, I wasn't making the connection, and nobody else was making the connection. Of all the people and doctors that I saw, nobody thought to ask me, have you ever been shaken? Has anyone ever violently pulled your head backwards? Have you ever been pushed into the bed and kept there so long that you could barely breathe? Nobody ever asked me any of those questions. And everyone was looking for other reasons for my problems. People always assume that if you're being abused, you will have physical evidence of it. And that's just, it's not always the case. Not with me, it wasn't.
If brain trauma is missed, any kind, and I'm talking any severity, whether it's from a concussion or a more moderate to severe injury to the brain, if that is missed and a person continues on with their life, they are missing out on potentially receiving cognitive rehab therapy, which can really help with their organizing, their thinking skills, their communication skills. It could impact their vision. It could impact, and no, I'm not talking about 20/20 vision. I'm talking about a person's ability to process what comes in through their eyes and what their brain processes and makes sense of.
So here we are, 3 years since the last incident, and 7 years since the first one. 3 years of cognitive rehabilitation therapy. And I just wish that we had realized what was actually going on with me sooner. I try not to think about what I've lost because I know that I can't get that time back and some of the skills back, I guess. But people will not be lining up to tell you that I'm back to normal, because I'm not.